Good afternoon. Welcome to the Educate2trade podcast with me, Chris Pollock.
Me Z.
Good to see you again, Z. I know I had a couple of weeks out of the office for over Easter and up in Yorkshire.
Yeah.
Get some help with the kids from the grandparents. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
What's been going on?
A lot's been going on, Chris.
Yep.
Right? We had the Trump sort of posts making an effect. We've had gold all-time highs. We've had a weak dollar. And we've seen many sort of developments happen around the tariffs. And Bitcoin's hit an all-time high for the year.
Well, Bitcoin at all-time highs, crikey, for the year. Fair play. What a market. We'll have a chat about Bitcoin, shall we, in a second. But yeah, I think talking about Trump would be a good place to start. He has been rowing back on all of his kind of quests. He came in trying to kind of oust Powell, didn't he? He's always had a funny relationship with him. And obviously these big pressures on China and asking, it's like trying to lure in a date, right? He's like, I'm not going to call G. G needs to call me.
Exactly.
It's like this power play. And yeah, there's been a few developments even today on that one, which we'll get into. But first of all, on Powell, right? The markets hated this. Yeah, right? They hated the fact that Powell was potentially going to be ousted by a president. Should be illegal, they think, in the Constitution for that to happen. The Fed is supposed to be independent. If it's going to become politicized, then that kind of undermines the whole kind of U.S. economy in many ways. And this led to huge outflows. If you take a look at how this looked on the S&P on the daily chart, if I can turn off this, see if we can get this chart up and running, and let's see. So yeah, this is the big capitulation was the tariffs. We had the unwind. This happened when I was away. The unwind of the tariffs. The third best day in the history of the S&P. Again, while I wasn't in the office, watching this from home was something special. Wow, what a day that was. But then he still managed to start digging in and causing some more havoc by trying to oust Powell. And Bess and Lutnick apparently took him into the Oval Office when they could, when Navarro wasn't around. Spent an hour bending his ear, and they've managed to convince him that trying to politicize the Fed was a bad idea, and that's led to a couple, 3 consecutive updates. Right, we had one of these mid-March. Since then, you're all the way back into February before we kind of seen this sort of consistency. And this day isn't done yet. There is a chance that we get 4 updates. We haven't seen that, I don't think, since the start of since January. So, yeah, it's good to see that he's rowing back on some of his ideas with Powell. The market seemed to be liking that. If he just said nothing for a week, I think this could be really, really good for the stock market. Do you think that he's got that in him?
No. I think he has more to say.
What do you think he's got up his sleeve for his next?
We will see. We'll have to see. He surprises us with his comments on a week-to-week basis. He's a surprise. He's a gift that keeps giving. And I think next week will be another week where Trump has something to say about where things are going.
Yeah, I find it exhausting. I'll be honest. This is this headline market. I don't think I've seen a market. I don't remember seeing a market this headline driven.
Oh, man.
There's kind of a flow chart that you need to make. I think for trading these days. It's like, and it's one question: did Trump say anything? If the answer is no, your action is wait. And if the answer is yes, then you just trade the price action. If you just did that in this environment, you would be doing spectacularly well. And all of the normal trades, they tend to either get run over or, they can take you to target just as often, I guess. But you just feel like you've got to be aware of what's going on with Trump and Lutnick and China these days. We'll talk about China in a second. But yeah, how are you finding this environment? I am shattered.
Yeah, same here, man. Like when we had Biden, it was an easy range to trade. And that's what I was talking to with a bunch of traders this week. We were sort of looking at the markets pre-November, before Trump came in, and we found it easy to sort of enter the market, get our profits, and then go on our sort of gym routine, enjoy our lives. But since Trump's been in, we've had Truth Social on, we have had all the sort of X profiles on, and we're seriously trading the news. We really are. We wait for anticipation, and the second a sort of announcement gets made from the White House press conference or from Trump's own Truth Social or his X page, it really impacts the market. So you have to always hold tight.
You see my flowchart clearly. This is I mean, I don't follow my flowchart purely either, which I wish I could. But yeah, I think that's the way to do it, especially with crypto as well. The weekends are still alive and kicking for you guys in that world. So yeah, I think that there's there's a lot to be said for kind of just keeping your ear to the ground, but it's exhausting.
Yeah, in crypto, it's exhausting in the way that you can't hold on to assets for long. So the second you're like up in profit, 100% up, 200% up, you have to take profits, or else anything Trump says or anything that comes out on socials gets dumped. So even Solana, like I'll give you an example of Solana. Solana went from $140 down to $95, and from $95 to 115 to 120
Over how long?
over a period of weeks.
Okay.
Leading on. So we started off with a high price, and then we sort of dumped it, and then we sort of pumped it back to 150 this week. So it's been volatile. We've had it like it's been like memes. We've been saying all the crypto market's been acting like the memes.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's going to be chaos out there. Let me show you the money supply thing that I wanted to talk about. Is in here. So this is for you crypto buffs out there. This is a little gift to you from Raoul Powell, is it? They're one of the big crypto guys on Twitter. He posted this chart around the global money supply and how this kind of correlates with a time lag to Bitcoin. So it's not like a direct correlation, like in the way that you see when the dollar weakens, gold rallies. These sort of inverse correlations that you see, they are live, right? That's helpful. But if you can get something that's a correlator with a lag, you can be sat there waiting for these things to happen and then acting after the event, right? And this is a 12-week lag from the money supply, which is the black line, the current money supply, and the price with crypto. So crypto these are both live, or I think this was earlier on in the week, but the money supply has been expanding and has taken out the highs that we had around the end of the year. And in fact, we've kind of markedly put on another kind of couple of percent from there. But that doesn't lead to a couple of percent move in Bitcoin, so you'll be pleased to know. I mean, if you were to kind of map this chart out just to take you to where the money supply lies now, you're looking at $140,000 if we do this over the next 12 weeks. So, music to your ears, I imagine. What's your take on this? Do you think we can see those sort of numbers on crypto between now and the summer?
I mean, I hope so, but I'm always sort of convicted that we have to wait for the markets to react first. But when a few friends of mine in the crypto industry sent me this thing, I was like, I'm so sort of convinced that we have to correct ourselves first. But it does look pretty nice.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I love about Bitcoin at the moment, if we compare it to the S&P, if we overlay Bitcoin here, let's just do whichever BTC I can find. Bitstamp will go. If you overlay like the correlations on these, I mean, they have been hugely. Well, this doesn't give a great account for it, but the correlations have been pretty close over the years, right? Especially with the Nasdaq. In fact, probably should have brought that chart up. But more recently, when we've had this kind of like fairly flaggy sort of pattern on the S&P, we've actually seen a pretty strong appreciation on Bitcoin, right? Crypto has pushed on pretty nicely during this time. You can still see there's a correlation there, but on a relative value basis, stocks are going down more and crypto's going up. So this is pretty good news, even if you don't get the Trump silence, which will hopefully allow stocks to kind of appreciate. If you just get even a rally in stocks, then this could be the sort of catalyst that gets you going. I kind of feel like Trump's nearly done. Although today there were a few comments being thrown from one side of the Pacific to the other, with China coming out and saying that they haven't had any talks with Trump about the trade deals, and then Trump in kind responded by saying, "No, I've spoken to Xi on the phone, not you." I'm sure he's called you too.
Sure, many times.
They responded in kind, saying, "No, we have." And I saw the interview with him today. He was asked, "So have you spoken to the Chinese premier since you announced the tariffs?" And he said, "I don't want to comment on that."
Wow.
So he has spoken to him, but just not in the last few years.
Not in the last few years.
So they have had conversations, but not about tariffs, seemingly. So this is why I think we're seeing a bit of a down day in the markets today. They don't like this, that the markets believe China at the moment more than they believe the US president.
Absolutely.
Is that a concern? Perhaps. But yeah, very much worth listening to any headlines you get out of China as well as Trump at the moment, because it's just like a game of horrendous tennis. But please, Friday is here and I can rest up for the weekend.
Well, you get to rest up whilst the crypto market does not rest up, Chris.
I honestly I do not know how you can even think about doing that.
Because if you look at like sort of Bitcoin, and say if we see look at Bitcoin's price here, Bitcoin we believe that it has to correct itself below here.
Okay.
And the way it sort of corrects itself is over the weekend. whilst Nasdaq and everything sort of holds back because of the consolidation we're seeing on sort of the hourly. This is the daily chart, and what we're seeing this back in. We don't know if it happens throughout the weekend. We speculate it could happen over the weekend, but maybe Monday, Tuesday, we really see this thing come back and correct itself. But that's the difference between Nasdaq and Bitcoin, where the Nasdaq folks can sleep and go to the gym on the weekend and go for a hike. Well, so as sort of crypto, if Bitcoin moves 1%, 2%, that means Solana moves 15, 20%. So I'll be on the screens. I do have some open positions.
Good luck to you. Yeah, my weekend's going to be different. I'll tell you about that later on. So, yeah, gold. Yeah, perfect. Really, really good one to lead into here. Because gold has been the kind of release valve for all this pressure when the stocks were selling off, bonds were selling off, nothing was working, right? And when you're a trader or an investor and you like to hedge yourself, your 60-40 portfolio, 60% stocks, 40% bonds. Normally, when one's doing well, the other one isn't, and vice versa. But over the year, you make money. This has been true 40 of the last 41 years outside of 2022. This year, when Trump started coming in and bombing the market with his tariff talk, that correlation broke down. And then gold found its bid, right? We've had a huge rally in gold since the start of the year. Seasonally, I know we talk about the seasonality charts in gold, it does do incredibly well at the beginning of the year, but it doesn't normally last as long as this. But this squeeze has been immense. And if we do see a correlation, a strength, a kind of footing on the stocks, which if money supply is to be believed, we are due to get money supply being the amount of money in like current account savings, etc. Liquid assets effectively is increasing. Well, some of that money finds its way into investments. That stuff is going to find its way into stocks, into crypto. Then maybe these safe havens aren't needed. And this could be the top in gold. I started trading gold back in 2006. My first trading job was trading metals. And we were talking then about 3,000, 3,500, and it hit just over 3,500 this week. So from what I've found out 20 years ago, targeted 20 years ago, we've gone and done it now. And is that it? That could be the end, right? This could be the big unwind. And we've seen, even in the last month when we've had unwinds in gold, they could be brutal. So if we do see more unwinds happening in gold, I think this next one could be even harsher than the one that we saw towards the beginning of April.
So this top, so we topped 3.5%, 3,500 here.
Yeah.
And would you expect gold to correct itself as it's currently doing right now?
Yeah, I'm happily shorting gold. I think there's tons of opportunity to make money short gold. I was long briefly yesterday, but my best trade of the day today was in gold. I believe that there's a good chance that this has run its course, at least for the time being. It's not to say that the market's over and it's going back into the sub 1000s. I don't think that will particularly ever happen unless there's an incredible liquidity crisis. But this froth, this was an unreal end. If you can zoom out a little bit, the rally that we had at the beginning of the year, this looked immense. And then the one we had afterward looked even better. And now we've had one that looks even more exponential. Can it go further exponential? Well, maybe if Trump comes out again and starts batting things back and gets frustrated with China and tries to redouble his efforts elsewhere, maybe. But he's talking about deals with India, deals with Japan all the time right now. So, it's out of the deal stuff. I think he's played his card and now it's the rollback phase. And I don't think I think he's conscious, or at least Besant is conscious, that if he starts to ramp up tariffs again, then everyone's just going to be like, you know what, let's just invest again when he leaves.
When you see gold at sort of an all-time high, and then we look at the dollar, right? If I can put the dollar up here, and you see the dollar currently at, let's say, 99.
Yeah, let's take this on a daily chart because this is interesting.
Yeah.
So you're right.
So how would you, when you see dollar like at these prices here, the confidence in the dollar has been hit quite a bit.
Yeah. Post-COVID times, last time we were down here, we're kind of a little bit oversold, you would say. I would be curious to see what the RSIs are on that one, but it looks heavily done. This makes sense though, because there are outflows from the US, right? The US exceptionalism, like the fact that people want to be in the TINA trade, there's no alternative. This was the only place to invest, was the US. If Trump's going to do these tariffs, that is no longer going to be the case. It kind of levels the playing field for places like Europe, or kind of some of the emerging markets, at least those who aren't overly tariffed. So maybe this isn't, the bottom on the dollar, but I think it's probably a short-term bottom, right? I think because of what's happening with these softening of the tones from Trump, I believe that this is going to take the foot off the throat of this market as well. So I think there'll be a re-rationalization of pricing over the next couple of weeks, so long as he doesn't say anything stupid, and that is a big ask.
Yeah, I think like even like when he first came, his first sort of presidential run, he did the same thing. Honestly, this is how he does it. He, for the first 6 months, he goes hard after everybody, and then he sort of has these sort of press conferences with the leaders and really like downs his tone and sort of negotiates. And I think that's how Trump's always been.
Yeah.
So I hope this happens. I mean, I could be wrong, but I hope he sort of dampens his mood and really gets to a negotiation sort of stage with most of these nations and his tariffs. Because the other thing I had to kind of tell you, like so last week we had Jonathan on.
Yeah.
And Jonathan gave his opinions on how long it takes to build tariffs. And I said, Jonathan, could 90 days be enough to negotiate tariffs? He goes, it takes us, because he worked in Parliament, like he's worked in those sorts of circles, and he told me it takes 6 to 8 months or sometimes years. So that's what I want to see, how the next 90 days go, because this is what the time clock is, right?
That's it. We got what? We're about 2-3 weeks in, so we got like just over 2 months before it all reverts back to type, right? Unless he kicks the can down the road. I imagine he will.
So that's what we have to negotiate with. It's an uncertain time.
Yeah.
And we have to see if he can negotiate his way out of this one.
Yeah.
But I see more movements in the markets. I see him sort of bringing more confidence to the dollar, so we sort of fill these gaps that we see at 102, 103, 105, and we make our way up. But we'll see. We'll see if we sort of get back into these zones here. But he has to do quite a bit of talking to take us there.
And like you say, there's a timeline on this. So people, it's like the Trump presidency when we saw this all coming, right? There's fear and there's uncertainty, but when you get like a month out, 2 weeks out, 1 week out, it all starts to become a quite heavy burden. So this window for the next kind of 6 weeks, I think if stocks are going to make a decent move into the summer, it kind of needs to happen now, because as we get closer towards those tariffs kind of imposing themselves, then risk off is going to come back, unless in the absence of any kind of complete kind of abolishment of the whole thing. So I think this is the window, if you are bullish, to maybe have a look. Obviously not investment advice, but I'd be looking more on the long side for stocks at the moment, unless, as I say, he kind of says something or trying to deny things in the way that they have today. So yeah, I think you're right. I could maybe see it getting back into here somewhere, just on a re-rationalization, just a little bit of kind of profit taking and what have you. But yeah, let's see what happens. We've got the Fed. I mean, the Fed are on a blackout now, right? We've got the Fed meeting 7th of May. So the Fed are not able. None of the Fed members are able to talk to us at the moment until that meeting. But yeah, that's probably going to be an interesting one. Now that they have more detail on these tariffs, they're all going to have to have written down written statements about this stuff in ways we haven't seen before. So I think it could be a really interesting Fed meeting in a couple of weeks' time.
This week, once I'm out of all my positions on the weekend, we will be holding out till the 7th of May. Because the Fed sort of, is it an interest rate cut? Do they keep it the same sort of levels? That's something to look forward to, because that's going to have a huge impact on everything. Gold, the stock market, crypto. So we wait till the 7th of May. So we're not far off that as well.
Yeah, well, that'd be nice. The weather's going to be nice next week apparently too, so nice time to get away. I've got my eye on a few things. There's a lot of news out next week. We can, if you give us a second to kind of get over to the calendars. But yeah, we do. It is the beginning of the month, right? And month end, month beginning, we've got a few things on the agenda for next week, which are probably worth taking a look at. Monday, Canadian elections. We got Tuesday, JOLTS. So this is the start of jobs week, right? Tuesday, the 29th of April. We're getting those JOLTS figures out, 3 o'clock. Wednesday, we've got some more news, I'm sure. Got some rate decisions later in the week from the BOJ. Yeah, German inflation Wednesday, GDP Canada, GDP US, and PCE. Well, I don't know don't normally see that on a Wednesday. And then you've got the Bank of Japan rate decision, which could be interesting. All kind of crescendoing with the non-farm payrolls. what the hell's going to go on with payrolls, right? There's a lot. Who's going to have been employing people over the last month with all this uncertainty around these numbers? The forecast out yet? Yeah, they're expecting 127,000. So down, but are we? I mean, how far down, right? The forecasts aren't much lower than recent forecasts. That surprises me. I thought we might be looking at like a 70, 80,000 figure. Economists are a little bit more optimistic around those non-farm payroll figures at 127 than I was anticipating.
Wow. So we have a lot to look forward to, and I think we've covered most of the things. I'm waiting till the 7th of May, and we'll see if 7th of May like makes the impact that I want for my tokens in crypto. But we'll see what it does to the sort of the stock market and all the other sort of things. I think next week we'll also talk a little bit about Japan. I think Japan's also going through a bit of inflation of some kind. So we'll see how that sort of impacts Forex pairs, the Bank of Japan, BOJs, all these things are upcoming. Japan had a
Yeah, plenty to keep busy month end, month beginning. We often see good flows out of stocks at the end of the month into them at the beginning, so hopefully keep your eye on those. They can be quite easy. Apart from that, what's your weekend looking like?
The weekend, a relaxing weekend away from the charts. Hopefully a swim. Hopefully some good sunshine. The weather looks, I think we predicted to be 20 degrees plus Celsius here in London.
Yeah, that's hot in the UK.
That's exactly. So yeah, I'll be relaxing away from the charts, and then hopefully be out of all my positions by Saturday morning. And then I can enjoy the weekend and then come back to on Monday.
You're going to enjoy Sunday? Football match happening with some significance there.
What's going to happen on Sunday?
Well, I think Liverpool will join Man United on 20 leagues this weekend. So you can get yourself out of those positions and kick back and enjoy watching that on Sunday afternoon.
Absolutely. I got to give it to Liverpool, man. Liverpool are about to win the title.
Yeah.
Unexpected.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm going to bask in this for a little while. We'll be talking more about this on the podcast.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for joining us. Have a lovely weekend.